Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pod Champs, part of the Wild World of Wrestling Podcast Network, sister network to the All Elite Zone. This is Jason Meanger filling in for our fearless leader, Mr. Connor Hayes, out with his mother on her birthday. Happy birthday to Mama Hayes out there. But I am
Happy
joined
birthday.
by the five-star man, Mr. Jacobs. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am glad to be here. We are speaking about women's wrestling, which is something that I am very high on. And yeah, let's get this going.
Evolution of women's wrestling. Well, I guess we go. I'll start from the beginning for me because I've followed it for a long time. You go all the way back to Mildred Burke. I remember a few years back when they took the Fabulous Moolah's name off the Battle Royal for, some stuff in her past that had came out, and she just kind of picked up what Mildred Burke was doing. She learned from her and went on. And I've never really been a big fan of stuff like that. I mean, nobody's perfect. There's a lot of things that happened back in the old days, not just in wrestling, that that were bad. Period. But they were just looked at for the times. It's the way things were. Doesn't make it right. Just a different time in history. I'm just not a big fan of taking people's names off things when they're not here to defend themselves anymore. To at least maybe give their side of the story, an explanation, or something like that. Because Moolah meant a lot to women's wrestling, whether she did it the right way, the wrong way, or the wrong way for a while, then the right way. And it's just like I said, history's got a lot of bad points to it, not in just the wrestling world, and a lot of other aspects of life as well. But for her part, Moolah did a lot for the women's evolution and getting to where they needed to be. She held the damn belt for 27 years.
Yeah, she was a hell of a champion.
I mean, you do what you got to do. And then when she was the Spider, when Wendy Richter didn't want to lose it back to her, or whoever Vince wanted to put it back on, and Wendy's like, "No, I'm not dropping the belt." And that was the real first screw job you ever really saw. Brett
The
never
official,
really
the official screw job.
yeah, like I said, Brett never really talks about that. He always, puts himself over. But if you go back, you can find that the Spider versus Wendy Richter, and the ref just hit the 3 count with Wendy kicking out at 1, and we had a new champ, and you never saw Wendy Richter again until the Hall of Fame. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, she was legit mad about that. I mean, like legit, she didn't know what was going on. I think like she went in there, she really didn't have a clue as far as when that count was done. She's like, what the hell? And you're right. I mean, she got out of Dodge. She's like, you know what? Screw this. Screw the business. I'm out of here. And you can't blame her. You can't really blame her because at the time, Mula was using her pool, and of course, her pool was mighty strong at that time. And I mean, you know, you can't take away what she's get given to the business as far as a contribution and as far as the character. And I think that she set a precedent for a lot of women that we see today. You know,
absolutely. And I mean, her and Mae Young were both tough as nails. You saw them women out there in their 60s and 70s. Mae Young in particular going through a table for the Dudley boys. Bubba Ray tells a funny story about that. He said the first time he ever had to put his hands on her, he slammed her, but he picked her up and kind of put her down like a pillow. And when they got to the back, he said that May just went off on him and told him that the next time he put her hands on her, he better treat her like one of the boys, or he wasn't gonna like what she did to him. And he said, I was just like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. He goes, so from then on, he goes, I always felt bad about it. I felt like I was going to hurt her. He goes, but she wanted to be treated like one of the boys when she was in the ring. I mean, them two ladies, right, wrong, or indifferent, some of their actions, they were tough as nails.
oh, most definitely. And
And
some of the pioneers,
yeah, and I don't know if you've been, this is kind of skipping around a little bit, but I don't know if you've been paying attention to NXT the last few weeks, but that's damn near been a whole show to the ladies. I mean, they've, 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, hell, my time goes by. But, I think the only male match that I can remember was Obafemi getting his rematch with Tony D'Angelo and the family coming out and interfering. But other than that, the rest of it, just like this week, it was all women. They've been main eventing, and good for them. I've said for a while, even before they started this, and I'm not sure who's training the women in NXT right now, but most of those girls can go. And they've got such a full roster between the 3 shows that they could very easily do a women's show. And people have talked about what they may do, resurrecting WCW or
Mm-hmm.
they might do when once they go to Netflix in January. But that would honestly be the first thing I would like to see them do is, you want to put it in the performance center to see if it takes off. You can do that if you want to tape matches, before and after Raw and SmackDown. You can do it that way. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Beth Phoenix with Adam Copeland being in AEW now. I'm not sure what her thing would be. She did commentate with NXT for a while. You could bring some of the other ladies back, not just Beth Phoenix, but that's what they were doing with Renee Young as well for a little while before she left. They were bringing her out to commentate, women's matches. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody there that could put a headset on and call women's matches, and
Yeah.
it's probably further their career as well. But yeah, I've been saying that for a while. I mean, they have so many women right now, and people are, I think they fumbled the ball with Tegan Knox. I've never been a big fan of Indy Hart.
Oh my God, I totally agree with you 100%. They
I've, like I
fumbled
said,
right there.
I've never been a big fan of Indy Hartwell, but I don't like to see anybody get released. But maybe she can, do like some of the other ones have, like whether it be a Drew McIntyre or Cody
Mm-hmm.
Rhodes, whatever. Maybe she can go out on the Indies, maybe AEW, back overseas, wherever she might want to go and make a name for herself and make her way back. I cheer for all those guys and girls. So, but they whether the ones they've released or not, there's so many women there. People are laughing about them doing the U.S. Intercontinental title, even though they haven't announced the Intercontinental title yet. That's coming next. But
Yeah.
there's so many women there. They need a mid card women's title.
Absolutely. I mean, and the thing is that, I mean, on top of that, I would not be upset with like a yearly, pay-per-view just for the women. I mean, they did that before, and I think people loved it from my account of it. It was a great pay-per-view. It was fun. And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to give not only their own show, but also their own yearly pay-per-view. I mean, why not? I love the whole concept.
Absolutely. That's what I think the show would come in handy is you could, if you've got, storylines that you can build on the all women show and then take it from there and get that taken off, then that can just like, Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision, it can lead to the pay-per-view instead of just, we're going to throw a bunch of women's matches together for an all women's pay-per-view. It would actually give it, some substance and, some bite to go into it on why these people are actually fighting.
Exactly. And I mean, and to think that, you know, what started as something that was looked upon as, you know, equivalent to like midget wrestling, and they treated it like that at one point in time. And then, it got to, the TNA part of it all, and to where they just catered to, the 18 to 35 demographic males, and it wasn't taken seriously at all. It was mostly about boobs and butts at one time, and I love that the progression of it now is that it is being taken as serious as, if not more so, as the men. And I mean, now they're main eventing shows. They're main eventing pay-per-views, whereas a decade or so ago you couldn't see that. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to see the whole progression of it all, the evolution of it all, to where they are now main eventing top shows around the world.
Well, and you go back and the first big thing that WWE did with the women was letting Trish and Lita main event Raw in 1990, not 1994, but 2004. Let me check my stats and let me make sure I'm right. Yeah. December 6th, 2004 is when
Hmm.
Trish and Lita main evented Raw. And, they did bring into some things. And I will tell you though, I give TNA, not the tits and ass part, but I give TNA a lot of credit to where women's wrestling went, because yes, their knockouts division, they were dressing pretty skimpy, but them girls were they were going back in the day. I mean,
They were talented, yeah.
from the beautiful people to Awesome Kong, Gail Kim coming in and out between going, back and forth between there and the WWE. Daphne, when she was there, I can't remember the girl that shaved her head. I can't remember her name, but you go back and Jeff Jarrett, when he first opened TNA and they actually went live every week, he really featured the knockouts division.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think at that time, whenever the talent that they brought in, as far as like, also they had Gail Kim, they brought her in, and she was amazing. I mean, you talk about one of the top tier challenges that they had was Gail Kim. I mean, she was it.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. I'm trying to remember that girl's name. Roxy LaRue. That's right. She was with if you remember, she was with Road Dogg and Billy Gunn as the Voodoo Queen when they were doing that Voodoo Kent Mafia, the VKM.
Yeah,
You know, she
yeah,
was with them, and I forgot who they said it was. It went to the went to the back, and just they had the idea of shaving one of the girls' heads, and they just went to the back like, hey, would any of y'all be up for shaving your head? And like, so I heard Bruce Pritchard tell the story. He was like, everybody just kind of got real quiet, and she piped up and she goes, well, actually, I was thinking about cutting mine off anyway because I fried it because I've dyed it so many times. Yeah, I'll do it if you want me to. He's like, all right, don't mess with your hair. We will get back to you. So, and you know, Roxy went out there and shaved her head. I mean, the girl Drew McIntyre was married to that got them both released.
yeah.
She was Tiffany in ECW. God, I can't think of what she wrestled by in TNA, but you know, she was doing a GM role in that Vince's version of ECW, but she went to TNA and was very good in the ring. I mean, they just did a lot of they did a lot of stuff in TNA that to me made everybody else kind of start catching up with the women's division. You know, that's where you started seeing Trish get more of a push. And God bless Trish because they brought her in, like you said, for TNA. She was a model, you know, in great shape. She had that look, and they brought her in for eye candy. And, you know, she told them she wanted more out of it. And, you know, she busted her ass to get to where she got, you know, and of course, Lita come in after being Miss Congeniality in ECW. And, you know, everybody knew she could move from her, you know, her days in Mexico. And then my girl wound up coming in, who I've known since my early 20s, and that would be Mickie James. I've known that girl a long time. I was so happy for her when she made it to Raw because, you know, it wasn't that any of us were giving her a hard time and telling her, you know, oh, you're foolish, whatever. We were, you know, when she started training and she said, I'm gonna make it to Raw. We were like, you go, girl. You know, back of our heads, you know, it's the cynical part of you that goes, yeah, she's gonna waste a lot of time. But you know, you wouldn't say that to her. It's the first time I ever got to see her wrestle. It was Kaida Pro Wrestling is where she was training here, and they did a show at the Chili Cook-Off. And when it was her turn to get in the ring, we all looked at each other, and it was like four of us standing there. We're like, "Holy shit, look at her! She can go!" And you know, and we told her, we're like, "Girl, you got something." And you know, she's, you know, I'd like to see her come get one more run in the WWE, but we'll see. With Nick there, I'm hoping they bring her in. You know, they don't have to necessarily put her in the ring if they don't want to, unless it's a special attraction. They don't have to give her a full-time slot, but you know, maybe bring her back as Nick's assistant, or I don't know. I mean, you know, hell, I'd be a better GM than Ava is, but that's a different point for a different day.
But I mean, nepotism at its finest, right there.
Well, I mean, you know, he got his job the same way. You know, being part of that Samoan dynasty, they all get a shot. Now, whether they make it or not, it's going to be a different story. But you know, they all get a shot. And I was telling my fiance last night we were watching SmackDown, and it went off the air. You know, they keep teasing. You know, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but they keep teasing, you know, Jacob and Solo, that split. And I told her last night, I said, this is a storyline that's just going to keep on giving for years. She said, what do you mean?
It could, yeah.
She said, what do you mean? I said, there are so many of them out there, kids and grandkids. I said, hell, Zilla Fatu's only like 19, 20 years old. And I said, you know, if they, you know, they get through this, what they're doing now, and then, you know, you see Solo and Jacob split, and then they got their own groups that can do what they're doing now.
Yeah.
I said, this is just the gift that keeps on giving, and they're going to have to make sure they do it right to make sure the people just don't absolutely turn on it. So
I agree. And also now I think about it, I think Lance in Hawaii just signed the WWE.
He did. Yeah, he did. And I'm going to tell you, while we're talking about the bloodline, I was so hoping. I like Naomi. I do. I have for a while. You know, she was another one they brought in just as a dancer for oh hell, what the hell was his name in WWE? Tyrus,
the Funkasaurus.
Yeah, the Funkasaurus. You know, she made it. Carmen didn't, and you know, that's what happens. But you know, when she left and went to TNA as Trinity Fatu, I've been saying this from, you know, if they want to give the bloodline another outlet, it's you know, that whole glow gimmick to me, and this is just again my opinion, that whole glow gimmick is for children, and I wanted her when she came back. I wanted them to say, "Oh, look, Naomi's back," and I wanted her to grab a microphone and say, You know who the hell I am. You know who I'm married to. The bullshit's over. You're gonna see what I
Mhm.
can. You're gonna see what I can really do. And when it was, I don't remember which female got involved with them at one point, but Jimmy got smacked by somebody. I'm like, that'd be the perfect time for her to come out and go, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah.
You done messed up now. You took the smile and the glow away. Now you getting his old lady.
I
It was
mean, that would be awesome to have a ladies division of the bloodline and have Nia Jackson there as well because she's well rooted into the bloodline. I mean, that'd be awesome.
well, you can't have one there that weighs more than Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. So, but yeah, I'll give Nia this. I mean, she was. I mean, she's not Charlotte Flair or Rhea Ripley or Becky Lynch by any stretch of the imagination, but she's looked a whole lot better, this time around than she did her first time. When
I
when,
agree.
when they released her and brought her back, she, I don't know if it just did something to her, or, made her realize that she came back for her second go around, all right, I can't mess this up. I'm not gonna get a third try, but she's done well.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think you can tell that she's actually been taking time to actually learn new moves because she's been pulling out new moves here and there. It's very subtle, but I don't know if people actually notice it. But she's been pulling out new moves like every other pay per view she's been doing, and like it's good to see her actually being safe with people, and not actually hurting them because it was brutal for a while watching her because she kept on hurting people left and right, and I was like, it's possible for you to choke slam somebody and not break their neck. I mean, you don't have to bust people's eye open or bust someone's nose open. And I think she took a time to go back and kind of figure out how strong she was because that's another thing. I don't think she knew how strong she was at the time, and I think she figured out her strengths,
Well,
and she figured out how to use all that.
no, I agree, but the thing is with now they, I said when Tiffany Stratton and wrestled Becky Lynch for the NXT title, I said, all right, yeah, she's ready, and
Mhm.
she reminds me a lot of Charlotte Flair, a young Charlotte Flair, a lot of that same gymnastics background. But the storyline between the two of them, and it's gonna result in whether she is successful or not. It's gonna result in Tiffany cashing in on Nia at some point, and she will probably be successful when she does it because it's gonna be one of those moments where two or three of them probably knock Nia down. She takes somebody's finish or whatever, and
Mhm.
Tiffany's gonna cash in while she's still laying there and give her that prettiest moonsault ever. And instead of the BME, you got the PME, and take the title, and then you'll have them feuding back and forth, and Tiffany probably playing the heel in that role and running from her.
Right.
And Tiffany with that whiny voice she's got. I mean, even though she's good in the ring, she makes a great chicken shit heel. So, you know,
Yeah, she is great at that. And the thing is that the way they're doing this, she can't, just mess up this, cash in. What they would, what you would call, she can't Baron Corbin the cash in. She has. I mean, if she's going to cash in, I would think, and I think a lot of fans are feeling like she's going to win the championship if she decides to cash in, or when she decides to cash in, it's going to be successful.
and we were talking about NXT earlier, and I think if they don't, do a women's show, I think they're going to run into a problem to where you've still got so many young, great female performers on the main roster that you can only keep those women down in NXT for so long before you got to bring them up. And they're so, I know they said they're going to take Raw and SmackDown both 3 hours in January, but you still got to get, you got to get your bloodline in. You got to get your Cody Rhodes, your Kevin Owens,
Mhm.
your Randy Orton, your Gunther, your Seth Rollins. You got to get all those people in. So with all these amazing women you've got on the roster between three brands, to me, if you don't give them, the platform to perform, you're going to wind up losing a lot of them in the shuffle. And when you want to push one of them, people just aren't going to care.
That's true. I mean, and we spoke. I think Connor and we spoke about that as well. And I feel like right now with the stacked roster that they have of women, I feel like as long as they have enough time, you can give them enough time and a good stories to tell behind that because you have to have the good stories to go behind that, or people are not going to be interested at all. And along with the talent, I think that they can make a go at a show. Let's say like, Raw, brings Netflix huge numbers, and they're saying, what else you got? What else you got? And they bring SmackDown on. Like, you know what? We were thinking about starting a women's show. Let's try that. I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, and the thing is, there's more women coming in too, because the roster is only going to get bigger because the next in line and all that stuff. And I mean, it's only going to get bigger. So yeah, eventually, I think they're going to have to figure out what to do with all this talent that they have in the women's division.
Yeah, because they already had a pretty stacked roster, in my opinion, on NXT, and then you bring Stephanie McCool, Julia, and Zarya all in within 3-4 weeks of each other, and it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Like I said, the last 3 weeks NXT has been mostly women, and I'm not mad at it. I mean, I think they've done a hell of a job, and I don't even know who's training them right now. I know Fit Finley was doing it at one point, and a lot of the women really liked Fit. Went as part of running that training for the women down in NXT, but I'm not sure who's doing it now. But
I heard Norman Smiley was back there, but I don't know if he's training the men or the women. But I know he's a trainer.
Let's see, NXT women's trainer Sarah Del Rey.
Oh,
she is. I knew she was there, but I kind of forgot about her. She is the assistant head coach and producer of the developmental territory known as NXT.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That is.
I knew they'd signed her a couple of years ago. I didn't realize she was.
Yeah.
But we'll jump back to the 80s. For me, I always felt bad for Medusa. Like I said, I understand why Vince did what he did with changing people's names, but I watched everything. From World Class, Central States, Memphis, AWA. I watched it all, and the mainstream audience never got to see what Sherry Martel and Medusa could do in the ring together. I mean, if you go back and you watch those battles they had for the AWA Women's Title, they were going at it before any of this stuff in the early 2000s and until what we have now was even thought about. Vince would bring over Bull Nakano occasionally, but other than that, the only reason the women's title got in any kind of traction or in the early 80s was because of the Cyndi Lauper. The whole MTV thing that wasn't anything. I mean, Vince he always spoke high of Moolah and what she did, and Wendy Richter getting with Cyndi Lauper, but he wasn't going to put her on WrestleMania or some big show like that or this war to settle the score because he thought a lot of Moolah. That was all Cyndi Lauper. And when she was gone, so was the women's title again.
I can remember the first time I saw Medusa. This is back when, I don't know, well, kids wouldn't know what the hell this is, but this is back when they did something called tape trading. And we would tape trade. And one of the first matches I ever saw Medusa was it was her and Bull. And it wasn't a WWF match. It was a match in Japan. I forget what company in Japan it was, but I know it was in Japan. And that match was amazing. And it was so different from what you would see, at that time in the WWF, because they were allowed to go in there and wrestle, and they were doing all these spectacular moves that you would now see today as you wouldn't blink twice at it. But now, at the time, it was amazing to watch these women pull off these moves, and like the matches, they would tell the best stories just like the men's matches would. I mean, they got time to breathe. Those matches between Bull and Medusa, those early matches. I mean, you can tell that rivalry was awesome. And I mean, that was one of my first memories of Medusa, was like a match with her, watching the old tape. That was probably one of my first, I guess you could say, exposures to how awesome women's wrestling can be.
Yeah, kids, if you want to jump on the YouTube these days and look up, you can look that up, or you can also look up Sherry Martel versus Medusa Michelli in AWA. They had several matches over the women's title there, and that's what kind of pains me for both of them, because both of them, I mean, they get a lot of credit, from the women of today, but the mainstream audience knew Medusa, and they knew Sherry as basically valets. Her first stint, Medusa's first stint, she was with the Dangerous Alliance, and Rick Rude mostly. And then Sherry managed Flair. She managed Harlem Heat. Some other people in and then she did it to, get them over. And I tell you what, out of all the people she managed, from Randy Savage to Ted DiBiase to Ric Flair, I enjoyed Sherry as a manager more with Harlem Heat than I did anybody. But
yeah, she was great with Harlem Heat. That was amazing. And her and Colonel Parker, that whole story, I remember that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny. But like I said, but they were both incredible in ring competitors, and they get more traction when people talk about them today for their valet work than they did, what they could actually do in the ring. I mean, if you go back and watch those matches, I mean, they might not be, Io Sky or some of these other ladies now, or Tiffany Stratton that does all the gymnastics, but their in ring work, the way they worked, they could hold up in today's wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to mention, I think one of the first women that actually stood out as far as their character and their style, and I think this particular wrestler, I think, set a tone for a lot of characters we see today. It was Luna. Luna was amazing, and that whole in the beginning of that character and how it progressed into this sadistic evil woman. I mean, it was amazing to see, and it was amazing I mean, and I'm young enough to remember her actually, being actively in the ring and being able to actually see her live, and it was amazing. And she was one of the first characters as far as women that stuck out in my head. That was like, wait, who is that? What is that? What is that all about?
Well, if you go back in the annals of history, I'm not sure if you ever saw this, but she was actually a very attractive woman.
Oh yeah, she was very pretty.
If you go, people, most people that if they remember Luna, they remember her with the shaved side head and the freaky, makeup that she would wear in the WWE. But if you go back to Florida where she got her start with Kevin Sullivan, she come out there and she was a very attractive. And then, him doing the whole devil gimmick and everything that he was doing took her to the dark side. And that's when the head shaving started and all that stuff and the weird makeup. And she just kept that character the rest of her career. But, it's kind of like when Nancy Benoit started in WCW as Robin Green, if anybody remembers that. She sitting in the front row, had her hair in pigtails, glasses, looked very nerdy. And, she was like Rick Steiner's biggest fan. And then, he had pulled her over the barricade a couple of times, and she came out to the Steiners to the ring like once or twice. And then like the following week, they're like, "Where's Robin? We don't know where she's at." And here comes Nancy walking out, what people remember Nancy Benoit looking like on TV. And Rick's like, so just a lot of little nuances that the women have done over the years. And, the sad thing is like, some of them would get over and they just wouldn't do nothing with it. Like, like I said, Medusa left she was actually released while she was women's champion. That's where she threw the title in the garbage that night on Nitro. And, she said she regretted it later, but, Bischoff was paying her and they had released her. And she said, so when she got the call, she's like, "Do you not realize that I've got your belt?" So, right. And that just goes to show you what Vince thought of the women's division back then. And, and a lot of it, like I said, a lot of those girls they signed that they brought in after the WCW had been purchased, it was all the ones that had the diva era going, all the brawn panty matches, your Tori Wilsons, God, I can't think of the rest of them off the top of my head, but that's just the ones that
Ivory.
Well, you remember who Ivory was?
Yeah.
Tina Ferrari. Did you ever watch Glow?
Early days.
Yeah, did you ever watch Glow back in the day?
I did watch Glow. Yes, I did.
Tina Ferrari was Glow's version of Hulk Hogan. She would come out dressed up in the red, white, and blue, and talking about saying your prayers. I mean, it was a straight damn near rip off of Hulk Hogan. But Tina Ferrari, she was big. She was their champion, and the way it was kind of funny the way she got her start. Godfather's talked about this before, and he's, she wasn't working anymore, and they were doing. That's when he was doing the Ho Train, and I forgot where she lived, but when they were talking about it, he said Bruce Pritchard said whoever he called, he said yeah, I got to get some hoes for the upcoming Raw, but I need a hoe that can bump. And he's like, you remember Tina Ferrari from Glow? He's like, yeah, kind of. Why? He's like, well, she lives there. I can have her show up. And he said, so she's, they got her there to be a hoe and bump that night, and everybody just loved her, and they kept her, and Ivory was born.
Yeah, I didn't know the origins of that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, she said, after Glow kind of went off the air, and I think she's the only. I'd have to go back and look at their roster, but I think she's the only one that actually did anything after Glow.
I mean, I think she was one of the only ones that was on Glow that had talent. She was one of a few.
Oh no, I was a teenager, so Hollywood and Vine always caught my eye. I don't remember them being very good workers, but they were very easy on the eyes, and
that was the point.
tag team champions at the time, yeah. But like I said, I out of all of them, I mean, I just I still think Charlotte Flair is head and shoulders above everybody. That's my opinion. But I think they've people get tired of seeing Charlotte in the title picture, but I've spoke about this actually several times. It's kind of they've done the same with her, in my opinion, what they've done with Roman Reigns. Roman actually, he's got a storyline now, but if it was just Roman by himself and the bloodline did not exist, they have put him on such a pedestal that when you bring him back, just like with Charlotte, and she comes back, how do you not put him in the title picture? You can't take somebody you've built that high and say, well, we're going to put you at the top of the card. That's not going to work for Charlotte. That's not going to work for Roman. And there's been a couple other ones. It works with Cena, because Cena will come in and, he'll put over an Austin Theory, and, he'll put over a Miro like he did back when he was still Rusev and stuff to that nature. But, like if you go back and watch the WrestleMania when Charlotte lost to Rhea and put the title on her, they caught her sitting down outside the ring after the match, and she was just up there. She had a tear in her eye, and she had this big grin on her face, because she knew what she had just done for Rhea. And the same as for Roman Reigns, if you can find the YouTube angle of it, when Cody pinned him this past WrestleMania, Roman had a smile on his face from ear to ear, because he knew what he knew what they had done for the past 2 years. But again, when you build somebody up that much, it's like what do you do with them after you let them take a break? You don't have to let them win the title, but I mean, there's 14 million different ways not to put the title on them and not knock them down as well. But when you build characters up that much, there's not a whole lot to do with them.
I mean, I agree with that, and I mean, I think it's inevitable that when Charlotte returns, I mean, she's going to find a way into the title picture, whether it's through the Royal Rumble or what have you. I mean, I think that's inevitable. And I mean, and not only Charlotte coming back, because there's a few women coming back from injury. I mean, you got Bliss, who's coming back from having a baby and everything. You have Asuka who's coming back soon. I mean, it's gonna be a really, really, really awesome time whenever Charlotte comes back, and I'm wondering to myself, what are they gonna do as far as getting her back into the title picture? And I know for a fact they're gonna put her there. I'm just trying to figure out how they're gonna do it.
Well, it's also been reported that Becky Lynch is coming back for Raw. Coming back when Raw moves to Netflix in January. So there's another name to throw in the mix. And, Becky's one. Becky does real well going either way. Charlotte is, we're talking about Charlotte. Rhea does well going either way. But Charlotte, and this is where Tiffany reminds me of her, is just a natural born heel. She's tried out there a couple of times to come out there and play the good girl and this, that. It just doesn't work. She comes across so condescending, and, it's like, that's just her, I guess that's just her personality. But like I said, that's just the way she comes across. I mean, Rick did well when he was a baby face, but he was a much better heel. He was a much better heel champion. But Charlotte just comes across to me as she doesn't have the baby face in her. Just like everybody said, Ricky Steamboat and Sting did not have the heel in them. They were just too nice of guys. And a lot of people said they were too nice of guys to be in the wrestling business, period. But, Charlotte just comes across as that condescending, I'm better than you. And if you don't, and if you don't think I am, step in the ring and I will show you how much better than you I am.
I agree. I mean, not too different from her father, and I think that's the way they should have her. Have her be this type, to have her nose stuck in the air at those who she feels that they're beneath her. I mean, that's how they need to play this. I feel like if they do that, I mean, with her being the champion as a heel, that's money. That's 100%. That's money.
I'm wondering with Alexa Bliss when she comes back, if she's going to be on her own or if they're going to put her with the Wyatts, because with her history with Bray, it's like in the Wyatt Six being out there, are we just going to ignore it? And they've been a lot better about not just ignoring things like they did in the past, under Vince's reign, where they would just act like, a 40-year-old showing up to the company had never wrestled a match before he got to the WWF. So they've been very good about, acknowledging the past. So it's like, if you wanted to go on her own, let her come out and cut a promo about how much she misses Bray and she wishes them well, but she's got to do her own thing, or put them with her. I think she would make, she would make a great counterpart to Uncle Howdy. Because one thing I was hoping for with the Uncle Howdy gimmick, when I did not want them to call him Bo Dallas. I wanted them to either call him Taylor Wyatt or Taylor Rotundo, whatever they wanted to do, because Bo Dallas to me just had that undercard, you got a Bo Lee stigma. And I wanted that away from the Wyatt Six if they were going to be successful. Corey Graves has done a good job with it. He I forgot what was going on, but something was said about Bo Dallas, and Corey piped up and he said, I wrestled Bo Dallas several times. That is not Bo Dallas. And so I mean, he's tried to do a good job to separate it, but again, like I said, I'll be curious to see how they handle Alexa Bliss's return. And I'll tell you who has really surprised me has been Liv Morgan. Starting off in the Riot Squad the way she did, and just didn't really seem like she had a future. I mean, she just she was bland in the ring. Her promos were bland, and good for her. She's come out. I mean, she's got her and Dom are generating great heat, and some of the stuff they do is kind of comical as well while they're trying to generate heat. And I mean, she's been on fire. And I'm glad that like Ian Rhea is one of those that, they built her up pretty well. How do you not have her in the title picture? And of course she is right now when she returns from her orbital bone injury. But I mean, I was glad that they didn't just, as soon as Rhea came back, they didn't just let her squash Liv and put the title back on her. I like where they went with it, because it would have made Liv look weak, and the way they did it did not knock Rhea down at all.
I agree, and the thing is that what they did with Liv, which is really genius storytelling. If you think about it, I mean, they took all the negative stuff that happened in their past during her career, and they're using it and turning it into a positive. This is her revenge tour, and I mean, it is genius writing on the creative staff's part. And the thing is with Liv, it's with her talent can push this all the way to the moon. And I feel like with that kind of long-term storytelling with Liv behind this whole thing, I feel like she has created something as far as how her character was looked at in the past as not being taken too serious, and it more of an afterthought, and like, okay, sure, Liv was okay, but now I think now it's come to a point to where her story has no choice but to be heard and to be told. And that's what I feel is really awesome about what they're doing right now with the women's division in certain storylines, in the way they're telling these stories.
Yeah, and I'll turn the page. Speaking of Liv Morgan again, she got her start in the Riot Squad with Ruby and Sarah Logan, and you go across the river, as they say. We'll go to AEW. I think they've missed the boat on a lot of those women. I mean, everybody was excited to see Paige come in, and yes, she got the title. I mean, I give them props for letting her win at Wembley, putting her over, doing that stuff. But it's like, when people talk about Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff has always said that people give him a hard time for not putting anybody over, and he said that he worked with Hulk long enough that if somebody told him he was going to lose, he would say, okay, then what? He didn't have a problem laying down as long as you had something coming next, as long as you knew what was coming next, that you weren't doing this, week to week crap on TV like Vince Russo liked to do, that you had a story planned out that would make it reasonable, or make it worth him laying down for. And if you could not answer the then what, and that's when the famous line of "that doesn't work for me, brother" would come in. And you had to be, they said, if Eric did. He said it several times. If you did not have your P's and Q's together, then talking to Hulk Hogan was the last thing you wanted to do. That you needed to have everything down to the T to go in there and tell him. He said, he's like, those older guys were protective of their character, but if it made sense, they didn't mind doing it. And that's where I think AEW's dropped the ball. I don't know. I mean, I don't know when they're going to bring Toni Storm back, but I don't see Mariah May dropping the belt until, because, she attacked Toni, did the whole thing. She won the title. She's still using the Storm Zero in her matches, which tells me that story is not done. So I don't see her dropping the title until Toni comes back, and it doesn't mean they're going to put it back on Toni, but to let her be done and finished with Toni. But then, I think just what I see people reacting to is Marina Shirakawa. Everybody's just excited for her. The Britt Baker stuff, I don't know what her deal is. She was so over at one point, and it's like, and it's not just the women over at AEW. You see a lot of stop and start booking with the men as well. But you look at that match that, it wasn't for everybody, but that match that Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker had on Dynamite a couple of years ago when they main evented and or was it a pay-per-view where they were bleeding all over the place? I think it was Dynamite, but I could be wrong. Everybody was like, wow, man, look at them go. And then you did nothing afterwards. And I mean, they brought, Ruby is kind of where I was going with that. Everybody was so excited for Ruby Soho to come over to AEW going, oh, the WWE dropped the ball with her. She's finally going to get a push. And, I know she got pregnant, but even before that, they hadn't done anything with her. She had done just as much, if not more, laying down in AEW than she did in WWE.
I mean, the thing is that what really bothers me about that whole situation is that at the time they had every single opportunity to put her in a good spot. But I feel like at that time when the company was still a little baby, and it still is a baby, when the company was, I would say, an infant, I don't think they were paying that much attention to the women's division as far as like what they're doing now with it. And like, even whenever, as time progressed and like you said, I mean, they weren't even doing anything with it before she got pregnant, which is sad to me because how can you not have something for her to do? How? I mean,
well, they also do a lot of stuff that reminds me of the Attitude Era WWE. If you watched Dynamite the other night and Marina Shirakawa and Harley Cameron shaking their titties, it was just like, I thought we had evolved from this, but okay. I mean, and they're both attractive females. I mean, don't get me wrong, my eyes ain't gonna mind it, but it's like I thought we had evolved from this, and and then now you also got Mercedes. I like Chris Statlander. I've always liked Chris Statlander, and you have her coming out, and they do that whole feud with her with Stokely, and going against Willow, and now all of a sudden she's a babyface again. And it was, and the only explanation you got was like a 10-second, 15-second thing from Chris where she said, yeah, I lost my best friend because I let Stokely get in my head. And, I was just frustrated, but, now my head's on straight and this is what we're going to do. I'm like, really?
And what was the point of it all then?
Like you couldn't do that in the ring to where like she came out and saved Willow from getting beaten up and apologized to her and they hug. And, it's like, you're just going to take 15 seconds in the back to do that. I mean, there's ways, and don't get me wrong. I can't say I could go in there and do better than Tony Khan does, but it's just like, there's ways to me to do things. And like I said, you could have had Willow get jumped by, being she's going after the TBS title, jumped by Camille and Mercedes and have her come out there and save her. And, you don't have to give her a microphone, but you can get the camera close enough to where people can read lips and her say she's sorry. And, her and Willow hug or, Willow just kind of looks at her and walks away and you play it out for a couple of weeks. And, then they talk, whether it's in the back or in the ring, and her giving her a heartfelt apology going, I was listening to somebody I shouldn't had. I was frustrated with not getting in the title picture. And, I took it out on you, blah, 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 however you wanted to do it. But I'm just, like I said, the 15 seconds in the back when she's like, after they're like, yeah, she's going after Mercedes Moné, which, I was not a Sasha Banks fan. And I am not a Mercedes Moné fan. So I don't think she's that great in the ring. I don't particularly like that new finish that she does. I did like the bank statement because where she's so little, it's hard to, she's not going to be able to get everybody up. I mean, If you watch that match with Willow, she had problems getting Willow up and actually wound up using the bank statement, if I remember correctly, to beat her.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
You know, if you just, but if you go through it, like I said, it's not just the women. It's you know, Wardlow, prime example, Miro, another prime example.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's so much start and stop booking in AEW. That's where I wish they could evolve from. I know they've got a huge roster too, and I'll be interested to see what they do when Max hits and their streaming starts. If they get any more time, if they get another show. I know they're looking to shop that show Shockwave and put it somewhere because Rampage will be going away when the new TV deal starts. But you know, I just, you know, like I said, I just want them to do better. That's all. I don't give a damn who wins the ratings. I'm gonna watch it all regardless. That's just what I've always done. You know, I was as bad as WCW got toward the end. I was a Crockett guy. You know, I watched a Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, you know, for years. And when he sold it to Ted Turner and it was so bad there for a little bit, then the NWO came along, it exploded, then it got bad again. I mean, it was, you know, WWE's, you know, was head and shoulders above WCW when it closed down. But, you know, I was still, you know, watching Ric Flair and Lex Luger and Sting and, you know, watching both shows. But, you know, like I said, my loyalty was to the WCW. So, you know, like that's the main reason. It was very nostalgic moment for me to go see Sting's last match at the Greensboro Coliseum, because like I think you were on with us one night when I was talking about actually being at Starrcade '83.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was on.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, I was in the nosebleed seats, but damn it, I was there. So it was a very nostalgic moment for me. But you know, like I said, just with the women of AEW, and I don't know what they're going to do with NXT either. But the you know, you've got some very, very talented women that are out there right now, and you know, for anybody that watched Jake Paul and Mike Tyson last night, you know, yeah, that's you know, Mike Tyson, another nostalgic moment. You know, nobody likes the Paul brothers. You know, I think Bully Ray actually tweeted out earlier, was it last night or today? I'm not sure, but when they were asking Tyson if he was done or if he might fight somebody else, he said, I think I got some more left in me. And well, who's your next opponent? And Logan was standing there like, it might be Logan. And Logan just, I'll effing kill you, man. And it's like, it's like that just stole the show right there. But where I was getting to with that, if you watched that last night, them two girls tore the house down, man. They
killed it.
They were, you know, that they were the highlight of the night. If you didn't see it, go back. It was 2-minute rounds, 8 2-minute rounds, and then women went at it. And you know,
I mean, they got dirty too, man. It was it was a dirty fight. I mean, there was the Irish girl. She was being dirty.
Well, if you watch it, they were both leaning in, so I think they were. You know, yeah, I
saw a clear headbutt at least.
At
least 2-3 times.
Yeah, like I said, they were both leaning in, so that could have went either way. I mean, you know, stay away from it, do whatever. But I mean, yeah, that one cut from that headbutt, you know, dirty or not,
that was bad. That was a bad cut.
Oh yeah, those two girls tore the house down. So
yeah,
you know, maybe that'll give you know, women's boxing some more coverage, and because you know, Serrano and Katie Taylor, it was unbelievable. And I mean, you know, like I said, Tyson coming out and having that look on his face, and even the first 2 rounds, Tyson won the first 2 rounds, but it's what it was what everybody thought it was going to be, that if he had a hope of winning it, he was going to have to knock Paul out in the first 2 rounds, because then you could tell his legs were just gone. But you know, that was in those last 6 rounds was just, man, I was sitting there about to fall asleep. I was like, oh, as soon as I closed my eyes, one of these dudes is going to knock the other one down. And I'll tell you, I love Mike Tyson, but it did look like that final couple of rounds that Jake Paul was just carrying him and not trying to hurt him. And so maybe not, we'll see. But like those women, back to what we were talking about, those women last night were unbelievable. And you've got women now in both companies, wrestling wise, that can steal the show. And they're going to have to figure out some things as far as getting these women on TV. And you know, it's like, and I'll give you an example. For me, it's like, you know, they're teasing the breakup of DIY, and in NXT that was fine. People were, you know, the NXT fans were like, oh, Ciampa versus Johnny. The main roster people, DIY comes out, nobody says anything, the crowd doesn't move, you know. And I know that Triple H and Shawn Michaels love Ciampa and Gargano both. I like Ciampa. I've never been a big Gargano fan. He's just always been kind of boring to me, but that's a personal preference. But when you don't do anything with people for a while, DIYs that, as soon as Ciampa came back, they were there, then they were gone. They were there, then they were gone. You know, if you don't, if people fall out of the limelight, unless you bring them back in a big way, nobody's going to care. And, they get pushed to the wayside, and they, maybe they get another chance or they wind up getting released. And like I said, the women's pool, and if you go back to the first couple of Royal Rumbles, they were not in this situation they were in. And that might be, I don't know if Becky will appear at the first Raw on Netflix, or they'll make her a surprise entrance for the Rumble. But, the first couple of Rumbles, the women's roster was not near what it is now. So they would have to bring back your Kelly, your Tori Wilsons, and Trish, Lita, Beth Phoenix to fill out the field and make it worth watching. So people didn't get, they weren't being bored in the women's Rumble. But I mean, now you've got so many there that people are going to want to see from all three brands that, in that women's Royal Rumble that, so it would be taking a spot, like that promo that Bubba Ray cut when he told Trick Williams he didn't want to be his partner because those people in the back were working hard and he didn't want to take somebody's spot, so he was going to turn him down, which was a good promo. And then he wanted, of course, to be taking that spot later because they all got into it again. But a lot of the older guys feel that way. Guys and girls are like, we had our time and this is their time. We're not trying to take a spot away from somebody. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, you got AEW coming up with the Max deal. You got Netflix, and a lot of people laughed when WWE signed with Netflix. First off, it was a shitload of money, and second off, people don't realize what a smart business decision that was with WWE going, basically taking all the minor pay-per-views across the river, to England, to Scotland, and all these different places. They're going over, to the Middle East for Crown Jewel and Saudi Arabia. Netflix reaches a lot more places than your average normal USA network or your Fox network. And
most definitely.
And that's the same reason, I don't know, people that don't watch football, they won't care, but a lot of people don't realize that the Christmas Day games this year, the daytime games are on Netflix. Why?
Yeah.
People, why? The NFL wants, they don't like taking a back seat to soccer. And soccer's been the biggest sport in the world for a long time. And of course, the NFL is huge here, and it kills everything over here, WWE included. But NFL, they want that global brand, and that's what Netflix can provide for the NFL and for the WWE. I mean, it's going to be, I think if I remember correctly, they said when and it would be more later down the road, but when they go live on Netflix, they're going to hit every place in the world except for like 18. And that's massive. Instead of people trying to watch it on YouTube or have to pirate or something of that nature, they're going to be able to watch it live on Netflix because of the reach Netflix has.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, because you're right. I mean, you think about it, make it so much easier for fans to actually be able to tune in and not to jump through hoops. I mean, make it a whole lot easier.
I just hope, I don't know what kind of the deal is, but I just, I like everything being in one place. So I hope they eventually migrate the library from Peacock over to Netflix. So you just go to one place and watch it all.
And I think from what I've heard, I think after they do the whole deal with Raw, I think at some point in time they're gonna put the replays of SmackDown also on Netflix. I'm not sure when they're gonna do it, but I know it's gonna happen at some point in time.
Yeah, we talked about Charlotte Flair earlier. The people will question booking decision. Well, look what they did with Asuka. She was undefeated in NXT, then she loses to Charlotte, and I was okay with it because it did not make Asuka look bad. And I forgot who said it, but they're like, you got, somebody that's undefeated, you got to get that out of the way so that, that's not all that gets talked about.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, that actually makes sense. So they it was a very good match at Mania with her and Asuka, and they put on a good show, and she wound up tapping out to the figure eight, selling the knee during the match. I think she came down on it wrong, if I remember right. But she got up, shook Charlotte's hand, and said Charlotte was ready for Asuka. Walked out, but then since then she's been champion a few times, and she's had a very good career on the main roster. For somebody that I don't know, I mean, I don't know her. I've never seen her behind the scenes. I don't know if she can speak English or not, but that shit she does when she starts running her mouth and you know in Japanese is funny. I mean, to
it
me,
is hilarious.
it's hysterical when she started. When I think it was her and Io Sky, but it might have been Kyrie Sane. I'm not sure. But when they started going back and forth at each other, and everybody kind of sitting there and the looks they had on their face while they women are in each other's faces going back and forth, I was dying. I thought it was hysterical, and but that's just me.
I think Oscar does speak English, but I think it's very broken, kind of like Tajiri, because I know Tajiri speaks English, but it's very very broken. But you can tell what they're saying.
Well, we're talking about Asians. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Great Muta's daughter has started wrestling over there, doing his gimmick. Face paint,
Awesome.
spraying the mist. And one thing I'll say that kind of makes me sad a little bit was, there was always this aura to New Japan with everything going on, and now you got Pro Wrestling Noah and some other things over there. But all these people are coming to the States, whether it be Tony and AEW, or coming into the Performance Center in WWE. And there's just not a whole lot of big name talent left in New Japan. It's there. I never want to see anything like that fold. So I mean, I'm hopeful for them. I hope they can, like Muta's daughter, for example, is a new star they have over there. But all their big name people have now came to the States, and it's like, how much is left to reel in the audience over there?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there would be a shortage of people going in and out of the dojos, training and stuff. But I mean, it would take a lot for as far as the women's division over there. I think it would take a huge dent for them to fold the whole thing. And like, I mean, you're right. A lot of their top stars are like they're in the U.S. now, or they're traveling all over the world doing other things. And it's like they lost a lot of their top stars, like over a span of years, or a couple of years, And I have faith. I have a lot of faith because I watch as much Japanese wrestling as far as women as I can, because I mean for a lot of Americans it's not that it's not that easy to access. But I think for me, I'm the type that I go looking on YouTube for some of the for some of these old Japanese matches that that a lot of us can't really see. And I think that as long as there's always women that want to get in that ring over there, because the way I see it, it's always going to be around, because there's not going to be a shortage of little warriors and little these little girls that want to become these huge superstars. And I mean, I feel like there's a future there, to me at least, and I have faith in it.
Well, no, I'm hopeful for it. Like I said, I'm interested to see if they can turn out some more Kenny Omegas or Cody Ibushi's, and just that we're getting. And I don't know. I haven't been real thrilled with Okada over here, and I know they say he's beat up from all the matches he took in Japan. But like with the women, though, going back to that, not to get off too far off topic, but I mean, the sky's the limit, and I'm glad to see that Rhea just re-signed. I know they said she has signed a 5-year deal. I'm a big Rhea Ripley. I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan, and I've said for the last couple of years, and I've even heard it mentioned on some podcasts as well. I was like, hey, I said that, you're stealing my shit. But that Rhea Ripley had Hollywood written all over her, and I caught a lot of crap when I first started doing this with Connor, because it wasn't knocking AEW, but the first time I'm telling you, the first time I ever saw Jade Cargill, I said, "Oh, that girl's got WWE written all over her. She looks like a star."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's WWE. They haven't really done that much different with her. I mean, they're just, as far as her presentation goes, I mean, it's the same ring entrance, basically the same kind of music. They're trying to polish up her in-ring stuff, and I don't know if her and Bianca really don't get along, or if they're just planting that out there, in the world of social media. So when they start teasing the breakup, or they're gonna, they decide to break them up, that people think it's more there too. And I hope they actually get along. I hope that those rumors aren't true, but they have been able to protect Jade, and not kind of show her weaknesses. And people are like,
Right.
well, people are like, well, if she was that weak, what about AEW? It's like, it's not a knock on AEW. It's the people that she was in the ring with were just as green, if not greener than she was. So
Yeah, exactly.
they weren't exposing her. If you understand what I'm saying, they're like, oh, look, I'm not knocking AEW. I'm just saying the first time I ever saw her, I'm like, that girl's got AEW written, WWE written all over. And she has fit in, she's fit like a hand in a glove since she got there. I mean, she looks amazing. And I wish her well. I mean, her and Bianca, I loved watching them as a tag team, but I always giggle though, because Jade comes out, Jade always comes out first, and then she stands there, and then Bianca's music hits, and first words out of her song is "I'm on my own." I'm like, okay, this will work out well when they do break you guys up. But
yeah,
like I said, the only thing that I would really do differently than in the women's division, I covered it earlier. I would get rid of that glow gimmick, and I would put Trinity Fatu, not Naomi, with the butler. I think they could really get her over as a badass if she got rid of that glow, and maybe some jeans or black leather pants, or kind of I mean she's got a good build on her, and they could make her look like a badass pretty easily.
Oh, that's totally believable. And she can. The thing is about her is that she is absolutely capable of pulling off that part. Like if they needed that bad girl from the Fatus, from the Fatu family. I mean, they can pull that off, and I think if done the right way, it could totally work. And I think at the end of the day, as long as the women have enough shine, give them enough TV time, with and push great stories behind them, I feel like they can go nowhere. Women's wrestling can go nowhere but up if they can keep that up. And like I said, it's just as important as men wrestling. And I think that today that is something that I enjoy seeing. Now they're up there with the men now, and like and people that want to complain about equality when it comes to wrestling. I mean, look how far women have come in professional wrestling. I mean, you can't get no better than what's going on right now. The men are fitting everywhere. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, yeah, it was, when during the WrestleMania during the year of COVID, I mean, it was a very general consensus that it wasn't even close that, everybody was saying the best match of the two nights was Rhea versus Charlotte the first time they went at it. And,
Yeah.
in that empty arena. I mean, they did. I mean, they put on a hell of a match for nobody. And, of course we were watching at home, but, so yeah, and they did the main event at WrestleMania, and even though the finish got kind of botched, I mean, the match was still good. Charlotte and Becky were able to carry, Ronda Ryback for a little while, and and make the match come out as it did. So I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, there's a lot of the women's matches when they're advertised for the pay-per-view. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some that I'll still okay. I'm gonna get up and take a break now. I don't care for the what the hell do they call them? Pure Fusion Collective of Baszler, Sonya Deville, and Zoe Stark. I'm like, oh, yawn. You got a lot more women out there that you could put in that place. Shayna Baszler's had 85 different chances to get over on the main roster, and it just ain't working.
I agree.
Sonya Deville the same way. I know Zoe's only been up for about a year and a half now, so you might be able to do something more with her if you did something else with her. But there's a lot of those women's matches that I would much rather see than the men. I mean, like, excuse me, last night, Naomi and Nia Jax main event SmackDown. I mean, so you see it more and more these days, and I'm with you. I think like I said, I would like to see them do a show first. I would like to see, once they go to Netflix, give them an all women show to where storylines can be put behind it to build up an all women's pay-per-view, opposed to just, hey, we're going to bring Trish back and let her wrestle Canadian wrestler X. Lita's going to come back and wrestle, Lady Wrestler X. Like when they did Trish and Charlotte, they did that right. And like I said, I give it women commentators. There's plenty of women out there that could do that job. As far as being the women's show for the women's commentator, and build it up. You don't have to do one a month, but I think you could get away with doing, at least one, if not two a year, if you had a show and did the storylines right, and you could see the tag titles defended more. Being you're doing the the mid card titles, the U.S. and Intercontinental Women's title. You can see the NXT North American Women's title defended more,
Mm-hmm.
and leave the main titles. The Women's Championship, the WWE Women's Championship, and the NXT Women's Championship. Leave those for the main show or for a pay per view. But with the mid card titles and tag titles and stuff of that nature, I think you very easily pull off a women's show and build up a pay per view.
Absolutely, and that's something that I hope that they're thinking about doing. I mean, Lord knows that the women could use more TV time with the stacked roster they have.
And I'll give you another one that I think would work, fit like a hand in the glove in WWE is Thunder Rosa. I think with her character and her in-ring work, I think they would be able to do, good things with Thunder Rosa. I know I've heard she's difficult backstage, but I've also heard that people that were difficult backstage other places, they get to WWE and people's like, oh, they're so wonderful to work with. So it's just like if they're given that structure and they know that's their one shot at the big time, that's not a knock to AEW. They're still a young company. And I hope they, reach WWE's level one day as far as viewers and money wise. It's good for the business. But, when you get to what's considered the big time, that's your one chance to make it or screw up. Most people are like, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. What do I need to do?
Right.
I think with Thunder Rosa's character, the face paint and the way she is in the ring, I think they would clean up some of her in-ring work, but I think she would fit very well there too. And I think they would know how to use her.
Absolutely. And like she is built for sports entertainment. You look at her, you think sports entertainment. And I mean, that's what I think.
Well, and I'll tell you one that surprised me that they dropped the ball with was Taya Valkyrie. First off, changing her name to Frankie Monet and sending her out with a dog. I'm like, well, what are y'all doing? But there's with Vince being on, I'm sure that was probably a Bruce Pritchard type deal because things aren't what they are now when Taya Valkyrie came in. But I've always enjoyed her in-ring work, and maybe she'll be back one day to show what she can do. I don't know what her contract is with AEW, but or I don't just have Tony turn things around and bring somebody in to help him. I know that they brought that girl in from WWE when Mercedes got signed that used to work with her in WWE, but bring somebody in that can actually help you book the women's division correctly, because you've got some women there that can entertain and can go. You just got to put them on TV.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. 100%.
Give me a good women's match over the Iron Savages any day. I'm so tired of seeing them dudes. I can't stand it. I mean, they talk every week, they come out wrestling somebody they're going to job to and talking about going to Titty City. If I'm going to Titty City, man, give me a good women's match, man. Don't give me them fat asses.
I mean, you can see the demographic they're going for with all that. I mean, but Tony's booking for the sickos,
Yeah. Well, we have come up on the hour there, Mr. 5-Star Man. You got any final thoughts on where we should go with this women's revolution that we're seeing these days?
I mean, like I said, I just feel like it can go nowhere but up. Done the right way, it can go nowhere but up. And I feel like with the way that women are being treated in the wrestling business now, as opposed to, let's say, a decade ago or 20 years ago. I mean, how they're being treated now is so much, I think, of a testament to, I feel like, the society of today, to where we want to see women have these great matches. We want to see the women have these high positions, and we want to see them do great things. And I mean, I feel like the times have changed, and we now want to see women having their own shows, have their own pay-per-views. I pay more attention to the important part as far as the storytelling that you're going to have behind the women. I think that's the key thing right there, is the storytelling.
Well, and I'll tell you something else too. You pay attention to it. And it's not every women's match like we were talking about earlier, but when you got the right women out there going, and I mean, the same can be said for the men, but when you got your stars out there, not pure fusion boring, but you got your stars out there, those women are getting just as many holy shit chances as the men are. And so like I said, I'm ready for the show if they can get one going. And I talked about it earlier, Trish and Lita, main event in Raw for the first time in 2004. So we are at the 20-year mark. So that's, they got the women got their first main event in 2004. We are now getting toward the end of 2024. So, everything you saw between that match and where we are now, it's been 20 years of this evolution coming. And to quote the 5-star man there, the sky's the limit. They can go nowhere but up. Any final thoughts there for us, my man?
Oh, give me 1 second. I think my audio went out because I can't hear you. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I got to jump back out and jump back in because I cannot hear you. Hold on. I'll be right back.
He's coming out and going back in. Like I said, make some comments. You can follow us. We are the sister channel of the All Elite Zone. Again, Connor out to dinner with his mom. Happy birthday, Mama Hayes. Just the women's evolution keeps coming. Of course, we all take our mamas out for their birthday. It's like what an evolution. But, again, we got Caitlin was in this picture. We got Trish, we got Lita, we got Gail Kim, we got Mickey James. And again, all those women have put their mark on there. And I can't wait to see where it goes from there. I'd like to see Charlotte Flair actually surpass Rick. Let her become a 17-time world champion. And, let her pass her daddy so he could actually come out there, if, God willing, he's still kicking when she does it. And, let him come out there and congratulate his daughter on becoming a 17-time champion. I don't know if they'll let Cena, or if Cena really even wants to become a 17-time champion, but I'd like to see Charlotte do it. I think she's got enough years left in her as long as she does not sustain. This was her first major injury besides the implant that busted. But, yeah, I mean, give them a show, show what they can do. And, we'll keep letting them rise because Rhea will be back. Charlotte's coming back. They just brought Julia Azaria, Stephanie Vacour, all these ladies come in that can actually just flip and go. And, and, where people, if you say anything, I'm not saying it's a slight on AEW, but I think Tony could, he could definitely take some advice from watching these shows and see what they're doing with the women. And,
it wouldn't hurt.
Well, come up in his own head what he can do with his instead of the stop and start booking. I mean,
right.
I mean, everybody's so hyped to see Stephanie Vacour, Azaria, and Julia, but if they put them on there for 2 weeks or a week, and then you didn't see them for a month and a half, people are like, oh yeah, they are there. But so again, that's my thing. The only thing you really missed was me telling them where Connor was again, and 20 years of women's evolution from Trish and Lita on Raw to where we are now. And that I'd like to see, like I said, I'd like to see Charlotte break Rick's record and have him come out there and congratulate his daughter. And, hell maybe even put 20 on her. I mean, she's got a lot of time left, barring any other major injuries. So any final thoughts on the women there, Mr. Jacobs?
I just want to see them go higher and higher. I want to see them get more shine because they definitely deserve it.
Absolutely, I agree. And don't forget, they are here every Saturday night. Is that correct, Mr. Jacobs? Every Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern time?
Every Saturday.
Come on out and, barring any major injury or any other birthdays, our fearless leader, Connor, should be back next week. So, in the meantime, support your women's wrestling. Watch it in Japan. Watch it in AEW. Watch it on WWE. Send them tweets. They might tell you they don't listen, but I promise you they read it. And tell them which women you want to see, what you like to see those women do. And, if we're going to Titty City, give us the women. We don't want the Iron Savages. So until next time, I am Jason B. Ingram, the pro wrestling historian, Mr. Jacobs, the 5-star man, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.